So let's start this off. So this is Dylan Lawrence Moore here again. I've got Nima Mahdjour on the line. He's a guy that I've been going to for MMT, or Modern Money Theory information. He's a wealth of knowledge on that. And he was at the UC Berkeley Riots for the Milo Yiannopoulos event last night. And I wanted to get him on here to ask him how it went and what he experienced. So, Nima, can you start us off by telling us what happened at the beginning? Like, how early did you show up and what was going on and how did things develop?
Yeah, I think so. The event was supposed to start at 8. Ticket screening was supposed to start at 7. I showed up at 6, and it was already madness at around that time, I would say. Actually, I arrived in the area around 5:30, grabbed a drink, and then walked over towards it, and you could already hear the fireworks and the drums from afar. And as I approached the ballroom, there was already a big fire. At one point, I heard an explosion. I think there may have been 1 or 2 really loud explosions. The first one, I believe, set off the fire. The item that was set on fire, I believe, was a generator or something like that. And they had written Milo on it and made a cross through it. And so it was a pretty big fire, pretty large crowds all over the place. Most people were excited, cheering, laughing, giggling, saying things like, "This is awesome."
You're talking about the rioters here, or the people wanting to get into the event?
I'm talking about bystanders, just apparently college students, people walking by. It was big crowds of people sort of in the outer periphery, just watching and filming. And then sort of on the part that was closer to the entrance to the ballroom is where the violent rioters were, where people were throwing rocks, storming the barricades, setting that generator on fire, causing explosions, shooting fireworks.
And then for the sorry to interrupt you. For the barricades, do you just mean like physical objects or police behind those?
There was like so. Actually, when I got to where the entrance was and where the fire was, I didn't see any police at all. I saw policemen in the building next to where the ballroom was, inside, standing there and sort of watching the whole thing unravel. Some of them, I believe, were even taking pictures and filming.
Wait, so there was no police outside of the actual building where the event was being held?
When I got there, which was sort of, I would say maybe 6:15 or something like that, when I got closer to the building, I didn't see any police at all. I saw some pictures that another friend I made out there took, where apparently there was 1 or 2 policemen standing close to that generator at the entrance that was subsequently set on fire. He even took sequential pictures of before and after the fire started. So I saw 1 or 2 policemen standing there. But on that picture that he showed me, which was earlier, I believe it must have been 5:30, maybe around 6 p.m. or so. It seems to have been 1 or 2 policemen there, but later on when I got there were none, and the only ones I saw were in the building next door, inside, sort of watching the whole situation.
That is bizarre. So I was at the University of Washington riot for the Milo event, and as most people know, someone got shot there, and there was a barricade in front of the building where Milo was holding the event, but the barricade was policemen with their bicycles. Yeah. And so at least in Seattle, that they had a good idea of like what we might need there, riot police, and
they knew what we might need here too, in my opinion. They're not idiots. They had Facebook groups that were openly.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Like, they purposely chose to not have any security there? I mean, is that what it looked like?
It absolutely looked like that. And there's no other explanation for it, because there was Facebook groups calling to shut the event down with 4,000, 5,000 attendees. I mean, at the very least, after they had started setting the generator on fire, smashing windows, then you would have expected some of the cops to move out and block the whole thing, but they didn't. In fact, the whole group started moving through the barricades and started having a little street party. It seemed very well organized. There was music playing, there was people beating drums, there was people singing along, people dancing. So were the rioters, sorry to interrupt you again, but were the rioters able to physically get into the building? Was there anyone even any sort of security in the building, or is this why that it was Milo was simply canceled and had to get what was it? Honestly,
evacuated.
I saw people sort of going in and out of the building, but some of them were, I think, Milo fans. I don't know. Some of them may have been agitators, but that wasn't really relevant to begin with because we hadn't even started the ticket screening yet. You know, I wasn't even expecting to be able to get in. I was just trying to get through the ticket screening, but that obviously didn't happen. So they could have. They threw rocks at the building. They set a fire right in front of it. They used some of the barricades that they dismantled to smash in the downstairs store windows, their own student union store. Supposedly their own. A lot of these people, I suspect, aren't students.
I think they're professional rioters.
Yeah, they have to be. They were so organized because then, so as the group started moving away from the ballroom down Telegraph Avenue, people they started chasing Trump supporters and Milo fans. I saw one guy being beaten so badly that he couldn't move anymore in the street. I don't even know what the conclusion is on that yet. I hope he's still alive.
I saw pictures. I don't know if it's the same one that you're talking about, but that's insane.
Yeah, there was one guy not moving, people around, surrounding him. I don't know, 5 to 10 Antifa people surrounding him, beating him with flagpoles. There was another guy who was chased down that same street. I saw all of that. I also walked by the girl who got pepper sprayed. She was wearing a "Make Bitcoin Great Again" hat.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
So she was pepper sprayed, and I think there was an ABC reporter there interviewing her, and I think he asked her something like, "Are you surprised?" He asked her something that really upset her, and she walked away at one point. But just no interest on what was going on behind.
How do you feel about you causing all this violence wearing that hat? Was it something like that?
I think he even asked her, "Are you surprised?" Or I have to look back at maybe they have it on ABC. Absolutely ridiculous. But so I walked by that, and at one point I was just walking away together with someone else who I'd been able to meet up with through the Facebook event group, and I somehow walked into, I don't know if it was tear gas or pepper spray. I didn't see anyone spray it out there. I didn't see any cops around there, but I literally couldn't open my eyes anymore for a minute or two.
Did it burn your face and burn your skin?
It just burned my eyes, okay. And I also noticed when I inhaled it, it was very irritating to my throat, I guess. So it was pretty bad, and it was a pretty scary situation. That because rioters were coming closer, I couldn't see. So I just started walking away from that situation. But right. I was pretty much right around that area where a lot of the footage that I've seen in the evening and at night and today were sort of in that general area.
So I got sorry, I'll let you finish.
So after the rioters had moved away from the ballroom onto Telegraph, they made a riot. There was fights. There's literal front lines emerging. People getting into fights. Trump supporters fighting with Antifa people, and obviously the Antifa way overpowering the Trump/Milo supporters numbers-wise, to where there was really no point in standing up to these people because they had almost an infinite supply of people approaching from the ballroom area.
Crazy. That is insane. when I was at University of Washington, I wanted to ask you a little bit about before things got that intense, what the dynamic was between the rioters and the people simply wanting to attend the event. I don't even like calling them Trump supporters or Milo supporters. They're just people waiting to see an event, right?
You know,
it was inauguration day when I was there, and the majority of the rioters didn't show up until later because they were rioting somewhere else in Seattle. But at first, there was a line that, I mean, they weren't squaring off yet, but there was a line between the people waiting in line to get into the event and the Antifa, or the Black Bloc, or whatever they're calling them, next to them. And I mean, there was like some insults exchanged and people trying to walk up and talk to them, or fascist, racist, coming like over the no man's land. But things didn't really engage until a certain like energy level hit. Did you see something similar, or was like from the get-go things were just,
you know, when I
exploded?
got what you that situation you described, there were clearly drawn lines between the event visitors and the rioters. I didn't see that in this case because I couldn't even figure out where to stand, where to go, where to meet people. That's why I sort of looked on the Facebook group and was able to hook up with someone ultimately somehow. You know, he sent me his number, so we met up, we started talking, we started having a drink afterwards. So, you know, it was still good. But it was complete chaos from our perspective, and the other side was perfectly organized, as you'd expect.
Yeah, I want to get into that next. So when I got there early at UW, there was actually few enough of these protesters where I was actually able to get a couple of them to talk to me. I know in the video I said before that they won't talk, but I did find a group calm enough and reasonable enough that they actually started a conversation. I think what they were saying was stupid, but at least they would talk to me, right? And they said that they're part of the IWW, which is the International Worldwide Workers, or International Workers Worldwide, or something like that. And I did some more research on these guys, and I found out that the Antifa, or the anti-fascist action, is actually like some sort of elite group of the International Workers Worldwide. And I also spoke to a girl in line who was in line to see the event. She was pro-Trump and wanted to see Milo and liked him. She said that she actually got a Facebook message from these guys saying, "Here's where to meet. Here's what to wear. You know, make sure you got your gas mask and your mask, like and your black stuff, and that to write a certain phone number on your arm, because if you get arrested, that's the number to call for legal help for these people." And I want to emphasize the organization of these people going on. And as you mentioned, they've got Facebook groups with like 4,000 people showing up, and that they're marching with bands. Obviously, they're practicing somewhere, and that the majority of these guys, at this point, I don't even think they're students. You mentioned that the students seem to be watching the battle happening below, that the majority of these guys are professional protesters. So how do you feel, or what are your thoughts on like the organizational level of what's happening here, of these rioters, and how is that affecting what's going on at these events? And to tail onto that afterward, the presence or lack of presence of police affecting that level of organization.
I would say that it's an interplay of all sorts of different counterbalancing forces. Number one, you have a core of very violent agitators. Then you have some student groups that organized the protest, that sort of joined the protest. And then you also had just student bystanders sort of tacitly approving it or cheering, giggling. Mostly I saw cheering, giggling, and this is awesome and stuff like that.
People who just wanted to see drama and violence. Yeah. They didn't care about the sides, right?
Yeah, well, maybe I think they were kind of proud that they stopped the supposed fascists. So, because that's the propaganda that's all over the city. There's the signs are everywhere. So that's what they already think they know. And then you have the cops not doing anything. So all of those things together, it seems like somebody is coordinating very intelligently.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, but I know there's news and evidence everywhere that people like George Soros or leftist groups are funding this sort of stuff happening. I mean, I've seen the footage of tour buses bringing in rioters. Now, I don't think that the low level minion is literally getting a paycheck from George Soros, but I wonder how much of the leadership in this is actually, I mean, again, this is too basic of a conspiracy theory. I was like, George Soros is doing everything, but where somewhere above, leftists, conspiratorial leftists, are controlling the leadership and helping guide and direct this. Because, I mean, by definition, these guys call themselves anarchists. I mean, you and I wouldn't agree with their definition of anarchy, but themselves anarchists, and they want to just go and destroy everything. And if they're anarchists and they don't want any authority, how are they so organized?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they're obviously not anarchists. They don't even know what the word means, I guess. But we don't really have to speculate as to who exactly is behind or whatever. But just the fact that you have organized, well-trained groups, and there's now video evidence of this all over the public internet, using the same science, same language, the same weapons, the same modus operandi, same strategies. It seems obvious to me that this should be traceable by a competent attorney general who gives a shit.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I wanted to go on to next. So I've been hearing a lot, especially when I did my own video telling about what happened at UW, at the University of Washington. I got a lot of comments of people criticizing me for not getting violent and attacking these people back. Now, on the first level, they're stupid, because as you mentioned, if I went by myself against a whole army of these guys, I would have just been trashed. But I get their point is, why aren't the Trump supporters doing the same thing, getting organized? I mean, basically forming militias to deal with these people. And personally, I think if the Trump supporters did that, they would kick these guys' asses, because these are literally like anti-Second Amendment people going up against pro-Second Amendment people. And the only reason why they haven't gotten mowed down is from the level-headedness and the patience of the pro-Second Amendment people. So, first of all, how do you feel about these, like the citizenry taking it into their own hands, in order to, I guess, create a defending army? I don't know what else to call it, to deal with these people? And how do you feel about the current state of the authorities, of the police, of the attorney general, for dealing with these?
So what was the first question again?
Private citizens forming their own groups.
Right. So, first of all, I think something just popped into my mind when you were speaking. And that is, I suspect that the desired reaction is exactly that. I think somebody who's pulling strings, they want for some Second Amendment people to start getting really medieval on these people. And the people themselves probably don't even know. The foot soldiers probably don't even really.
Correct. They're useful idiots.
Yeah. So that's one possible consequence that they're looking for. They're looking to provoke, but then ultimately there's so many more of those people than ours that I don't really see, at least here in Berkeley. There was maybe a couple of hundred people going to the Milo event. At least
really, that's it.
Well, I don't know. This was from the Facebook event page, so maybe I guess it was more than that, but maybe a couple of. What do you think was in Washington?
In Washington, the line was like wrapped around buildings. It was so long, and then we had two lines, like student and non. There was a ton of people who wanted to get in, and if the two sides squared off, I think it would have been fairly equal in numbers.
There's no possibility of a line here in Berkeley. There was no. It's dispersed, completely chaotic. It was insane. But so in any case, I think if somebody ever wanted to do something physical with these people, then they would have to come up with a comprehensive and elaborate strategy and follow and watch these people and look what they've done in the past and realize how professional they are, how well armed they are. They have flagpoles with them. You know, I realized they don't have the flagpoles with them because they want to wave a flag, because they're very good at using those poles as very dangerous weapons.
Right.
Because they smash people in the head with the front of the pole if they need to. I've seen them do that.
Yep.
Yeah, not just beating you like this, but literally, I mean, just lethal stuff.
Yeah, that's brutal. And I keep saying this, like, in order to organize against that, we're literally talking like two armies going against each other, right? Now, it seems like we both agree here that neither of us feel that that's the solution, simply because it seems like that's the sort of reaction whoever is the marionette controller of all what's going on is going for. So I'm really looking for a discussion of what the sort of solution is, and where I start to lean is that the media narrative needs to change. I mean, you told me before we started recording, the media narratives that you were seeing going on for what happened at UC Berkeley last night is portraying that the Milo supporters are the violent ones here. They're the ones sparking the events. They're the ones who want to start a fight.
CNN's main headline today is Milo Yiannopoulos wants to make hate speech cool on campuses, or something like that. That is the essence of what they've taken away.
Speech.
What has happened? So that's
the thing that seems to be striking out to me is, first of all, that these events need to continue because they're really proving a point, and we need to be safer about us going to these events.
This event was a huge success for us, right?
Everyone's Googling Milo now.
Look, I mean, for us to go there and listen to Milo talk would have been a mundane enjoyment amongst a few hundred individuals, right? It would have not gained the movement anything. But them burning the place down and beating people up, that is gaining us so much more legitimacy and confirmation and support.
Legitimacy, that's a good word to pick, because I think what needs to happen is we need to be able to change the narrative, and we can see that the narrative is dying on the mainstream media, so that the police and the attorney general and these authorities that we're supposed to have to protect us can actually do their job. Because I'm sure there's a lot of police looking at this going, I'm supposed to be stopping that. That's my job. And they're getting orders from on high saying, don't do it. And I don't know how much, I mean, let's go back into conspiracy land of who's giving who orders or what's going on. But I think the majority of police don't want this sort of stuff going on. They all want to be able to protect their neighborhoods. That's what they got the damn job for. And it's the media that's watching them like a hawk, where if they fart the wrong way, we're going to see nothing but police brutality all over the TV for the next month.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That's true. But also the mainstream media is becoming irrelevant. So the question is, how much does it really matter what they say or do? So I think, Trump, maybe that's what you're saying there. Maybe that's part of the reason why Trump has taken such a strong stance, pro-cop stance, unconditionally all the time. So I'm sure the narrative, that'll also help change the narrative in the country overall. So I think that the mainstream media narrative is kind of irrelevant ultimately.
Well, I think it's becoming irrelevant, but I don't know if it's irrelevant yet.
Sure. You're right.
Then what do you feel are the best steps of action to start taking to start dealing with specifically this home invasion? I don't know what else to call it. Well, I don't want to call it a civil war, because, like I said, once the people with guns got irritated enough, it would just be over overnight. But need to be taken to start dealing with this.
Yeah. So I think, let's see what happens when Jeff Sessions comes into office. Trump's administration, Steve Bannon is now in the National Security Council. Steve Bannon was a Breitbart editor who made Milo famous. I'm sure he's watched this and is not particularly happy about what has happened.
Well, I saw Trump's tweet. Trump saw what's going on, and he's threatening to take away federal funding for UC Berkeley.
Yeah. I was actually upset that I was upset that it was a question mark after his tweet.
Oh yeah, right.
I think that, of course, I mean, that shouldn't even be a question. I hope that gets done quickly at one point. But ultimately, I think I think ultimately it comes down to Trump's attorney general actually being in office, because until then, they're probably holding off on doing anything serious about this kind of terrorism, domestic terrorism.
Yeah. Well, then to finish this off, I had a recommendation from my personal experience of, if you go to these events, and I'm not saying don't go to them, if you go to these events, what's the best way to stay safe?
I mean, I was able to stay away from really dangerous situations if I wanted to. I saw a lot of people who really want to film things, be close up and stuff like that.
Like me at UW. Sorry.
Right, so if you can stay out of trouble, I'd say. If you want to, you just have to make that commitment.
Be more specific about staying out of trouble. Because, for example, my wife got hit by a projectile.
Of course,
she was just standing in line.
But
right?
I'm just saying, it's difficult, but that should be your goal, right? For example, I saw that where the line, I guess, was supposed to be, there was rocks that had smashed in the windows. You can see it in the videos. Even you see windows that were smashed in the student store, ironically. But so I didn't stand there, because I backed away. Actually, at one point, I went as far away from the whole thing as I could, and sort of watched it from an upper level, elevated level, so I could have a better overview. Maybe it's difficult sometimes, but I see people who get excited, want to get close, film every detail and stuff like that. So you can get in danger there.
They're just asking for it at that point.
Well, they're not asking for it, but they're increasing the odds of.
They're asking for it. I mean, let's be honest. If you know that that's what's going on, and you know the danger of going over there, you're asking for it.
Yeah. Now that you've listened to people like us, I guess you've heard the info. Certainly, if you still don't make that commitment, you're asking for it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's as far as we're going to go today. We covered it pretty well.
I just wanted to, sorry, can I just mention one thing? For example, I just want to say something about a tweet that I saw Judd Apatow posted today. The director, the comedy director. He wrote something along the lines of, "This is only the beginning. When will these Trump supporters understand what they've done?" or something like that. Then deleted the tweet and later on apologized, said, of course I don't support violence or whatever. So then what were you talking about in the tweet that you deleted? What were you referring to when you said this is only the beginning?
I support violence until it offends someone's feelings. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, Nima, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, thanks, man.